Live. Okay.
What's
Now
up?
we're
What's
live.
up?
Welcome to the Tribe Thursday as we do. Halloween edition, baby. Happy Halloween. Okay, so today we're going to talk about reading your customer's mind. What is the mindset of your customer? Because
They all got one.
after a decade in digital marketing, we're like, this is really hard to convert people from strangers into customers online. Getting to buy is hard. Getting them to engage and get results and continue to pay and stay is also really hard.
Getting
So
them to buy and continually to buy in. It's a daily thing. You got to keep reactivating that mindset of the buyer, not just get them in once and hope that they do what you want them to do. It's a continual buy-in, right?
So that's why we studied the human brain and neuroscience and human psychology and all that stuff, because we're like, how do people think? How are they wired? How do we get them to do what we want? What is happening inside the mind of the customer? So we're going to break down a few points today. So hopefully that helps you understand how to make your stuff more attractive, because that's the name of the game, right? Sales equals attraction, and to get attraction, you need to be
Attractive.
that's right.
Let's go.
So
Speaking of attractive, we got our paper bag princess right here, hiding the goodies.
we're not a paper house, so don't know how to cover these points up,
We
but
recycle.
we know people like a big reveal. If we showed you all of this stuff in advance,
You'd be
then
gone.
you wouldn't need to pay attention to the rest of it, because your mind would fill in the information, say, I already know that, and then move on. But if we left this curiosity right here, then you're like, well, what is that next step? What is that next step? And then you
You're already
just
checking out
keep
the top one.
hanging on a little longer. So that's the idea behind this ugly piece of paper. But ultimately, we're going to start with lesson number 1, value to burden ratio. So,
We keep seeing this, and we actually saw this in our inbox this morning, where our big thing is results. We just keep talking about this. The whole thing is that people sign up because they want a result, and we know that. It's so simple. But people think, oh, if they're paying, and they're paying every month, I just got to keep producing more. I got to keep producing more, right? I got my 90-day window. What happens after that? More content, right? Wrong.
So you got to understand, the more you put into your offer, the more you are potentially burdening your customer. People don't want more stuff. They don't want stuff. They want results.
They have no time. They don't want to be watching your hour videos. If it can be done in 10 minutes, they don't care. They want the result.
So we don't want to build a Netflix model. That's something that's super common in like coaching and memberships and that style of community-based businesses. More. And then if I just put everything into a classroom, they'll see, oh, there's so much value that it's worth 10x what I'm charging in your mind. In their mind, they see, oh, I would pay 10x more for half this content or a tenth of this content, because I just want to know what few steps can get me to where I want to go. So they don't want a whole bunch of stuff, because people ain't got time for that. Everyone's busy, overwhelmed, oversubscribed, and frankly, they don't care about another guru on the internet. So just because you feel like it's a lot of value doesn't mean they feel like it's a lot of value. So just consider, is all of this stuff I'm presenting
Necessary.
helping them or burdening them? Right? So
You got to remember, they have no time.
ain't nobody got time for that.
So don't be a burden. So that's number 1. Number 2,
Values hierarchy. Okay, so everybody makes decisions from a values perspective, right? So once you pop out some kids, you might make some different decisions now that your main priority, your value is on family and making sure that little baby doesn't die, right? So you have a new set of values, and therefore you have a new set of beliefs and behaviors. And so everybody acts in accordance to their values hierarchy. So the higher the value, the more it influences your behavior. The lower it is, the more your other values might override that behavior, right? So it really comes down to the hierarchy of the values, not just the value, but what rank they're in. So if you're trying to sell something luxury, expensive, whatever, just because you might have a lot of value to justify the price, doesn't mean that they are the right person to receive it at that price. So that goes back to, just because you can solve a problem doesn't mean they want you to solve that problem, right? So you need to say, am I the right person for this person in the first place? And is this person in the right mindset to buy? Because we're saying everybody's overwhelmed, everybody's oversubscribed, they're busy, they're burnt out. So therefore, if they're struggling to get by as it is, they're near the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So their values are, how do I pay rent? How do I get fed? How do I feed my baby? Right? So they're not looking at, how do I make another $300 per month so I can buy this course? Because that course probably has a lot of value and time that they don't have, and money they don't have. So if you want to sell something luxury, then you have to go to the people who are at a higher level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So they're probably looking for love, connection, belonging. At the tippy top, they're looking for satisfaction, fulfillment, existential purpose.
Enlightenment, whatever. But you have to climb the ranks to get there. And it's, where does yours fit, right? Even just talking about, like, we build for belonging, that's a huge value of ours, right? And we know that's because we value retention, because we value freedom, right? And this whole model is because we've spent so long valuing freedom over everything else that we could have just got jobs, you know? But we valued freedom so highly that we ate shit for years, lived cheap in Mexican hostels so that we could, like, provide this model. A big part of that is the value of build for belonging, which belonging is that second tier of that Maslow's hierarchy pyramid, right? Thankfully, a lot of people need that because social isolation is such a huge problem. But that's not what is going to get them to buy. It's what's going to get them to stay. So that's a big part of it. It's not on the front end, it's on the back end. But of course, just looking at what are the values of their people, right? Like, you're not going to sell an EV car to somebody who doesn't value the environment. They don't care, because they probably care about, they value something higher or different, or they just value maybe their own status versus the environment. So maybe they want something a little bit more flashy, not something electric.
Everyone can pretend to care about the environment because everybody lives in the same environment. Sure, we all care to some degree, but it's probably lower than other things we care about, which we'll actually get into in the second last point.
Open loop, you see that?
So the next one we're going to talk about, options and the paradox of progress. Mark Manson talks about the paradox of progress, as in, the better things get. So we're not factored, at least in our little area of society, we don't see war. We see it on social media, but in our own little worlds, like, things are relatively great. You know, we're safe. We can walk the streets for the most part, feeling comfortable. We can get to where we need to be. Most people are employed to some degree. Like, the world is in a financially pretty good place, a pretty safe place. You know, we're not just murdering on the streets. It's not the purge.
If you think it back to like 300 years, we're in a pretty great spot.
So the better things get, the more people are dissatisfied with their life. That's the paradox of progress. It's like, you don't have these things in your face to stress about, so you find things to stress about. And so that's where people think options are a good idea, like more pricing options, more pricing plans, more products, more. The more you create, the more you give, the more people have opportunity to buy from you. The more you create, the more sales you can make. Not necessarily the case, because people don't want options. They want what they want, right? So if you give more than 3 options, then you're going to confuse the mind. So that's why some of the best restaurants, like Michelin star restaurants, very small menu, because they do those things really well. And so it's easier for someone to make a decision and pay you and move forward if you give them less options. And it's easier for them to get results if you give them less stuff, right? So it's like, the more is not good, because people just see the bad in it. Or, for the most part, they get confused. And the confused mind doesn't buy. So we don't want more stuff. We don't want more options. We want probably 3. The mind has, there's like the rule of 3. 3 or 4, the mind can really understand, conceptualize, and recall. Anything more than that, it gets confusing. And so we don't want to confuse people, because we want them to buy.
And to keep buying. Number 4. This comes back to number 1, information overwhelm, right? Again, we don't want to be a burden. We want to create a continual transformation journey that just pulls them right through, right?
There is some glare here, but
that's not too bad.
Information overwhelm, basically, it comes back to what we were talking about. Don't overwhelm people, but people don't want information. We're not in the information age. We are in the transformation age. Anything can be found on Google.
ChatGPT.
And now ChatGPT and Poe, they can give you exactly every information, piece of content, context that you'd ever need. Information is seemingly free. So people don't necessarily value information anymore like they did back at the start of the internet. People don't necessarily value ebooks, free reports, all of these things that you might have poured your life into, hours creating this piece of content, knowing it can change lives. That doesn't mean that they care though, because they're busy. So information overwhelm is plaguing everybody. I mean, how many ads do you see as you're scrolling? And as you're scrolling, how much content are you inherently like subconsciously putting into your system? So people are just like, even when they're trying to turn their brain off, scrolling, the subconscious is still getting filled with information. So we don't want information, we want transformation. So
Another one of our values in our values hierarchy, right? Build for belonging, transformation over transaction, transformation over information, right? And when we're building that way, then it's what do we need to get them to do? What do they need to know? What do they need to do? And how do we just drag them through the steps to get there? It's not where can I throw in more information? Maybe they need this. It's just looking at, okay, if they're falling off here, then it's why, right? It's not like let's throw more content in. It's let's look where there's drop off, where there's friction points, and then how do we build them back up? How do we get them back on the horse, back on the train, keeping going through that transformation journey?
okay, well, that didn't work.
Five hands.
So status and signaling. Essentially, because people are operating through their values, most people care about what other people think. And so our status is very important because we're always comparing ourselves to others around us. We're always subconsciously signaling who we are based on how we dress, how we walk, how we talk, how we look, what kind of piercings, tattoos, what are we listening to? Like all of these things signal who we are because it's a subconscious signal to others to say, I'm just like you, maybe we could be friends. You seem approachable, you're just like me. Or you seem like you're someone I want to stay away from out of safety, or just you don't pass my vibe check. You're for someone, but you're not for me. Everybody is looking to increase their status and signaling who they are.
And every social ecosystem has a natural sense of hierarchy, right? That's why we build it into our communities, because naturally humans will do this anyway. The animal kingdom does this anyway. Wherever you find a group, you'll find a natural sense of hierarchy, right? Even a group project with 4 people, somebody is stepping up to be the alpha or the leader, right? There's always somebody who takes charge, and then people will always figure out where they rest in that social ecosystem, in that social hierarchy. And because humans are growth seeking, right? We're always looking to advance to be like what's next. Then it's usually a climb for the social ladder as well, right? You can't be as douchey with it these days, so that's why people like driving their Porsche will signal their sense of status without them having to tell everybody and be a dick, right?
You can't talk about how much money you have, so that's why you buy things that are expensive, because it does the talking for you. So that's signaling. But that comes back to who you are. And if whatever you're trying to sell, if it doesn't increase their status, then you need to make sure it doesn't decrease their status, because it's probably decreasing their bank account. And so we want that to be the only thing that they're sacrificing. So preferably you figure out how to make my thing increase their status. You know, if you become a tribe leader, then you're increasing your status by building a network of customers who look up to you because you are their new guide, their new guru. That does give you status in a community, in your business, in your social life. You know, if you're getting on speaking gigs because you're an established, credible source, then there's a lot of status that comes from, like, clearly you're on stage because you've earned that right. You know, so that's both status and signal. So how can your products increase their status?
It's again like the Starbucks effect. Some people will, taste aside, holding a Starbucks cup gives you a level of status, even just where you see those cups. Like when we're at these big business conferences in LA, everyone is carrying a Starbucks. But if somebody walks in with like a Tim Hortons or a Dunkin' Donuts, it already feels like it gives you less status. It already shows where that is. Even just walking into a Tim Hortons, I was there this morning. You look around and it's
a different caliber of customer than you'd see at Starbucks.
At Starbucks, I can leave my computer there. I can walk away. Everybody's on their MacBooks. It feels safe. At Tim Hortons, it's a little different environment. I don't think I would leave my computer unattended. In which case, it just kind of shows how the status really performs at a subconscious level. It's not like their marketing changes to say like, hey, are you richer than you? Come to Starbucks. But it's just a natural sense of the human hierarchy.
So that's why they make their coffee $1 more than a Tim Hortons would, because that's status. It's not expensive, but it's more expensive. So people who are coffee snobs can reflect that to the world by saying, I can afford good coffee.
And I value
and I
that.
value good coffee.
So, brings us to the last one.
Emotions over facts, always. That's really
Humans
what all
are-
of this comes down to. All these things are triggers and signals in the brain that says, this is how I'm going to make a decision. They are all an emotional decision.
Yeah, it was like a big revelation in marketing is that everyone thought that humans were logical and they made decisions based on facts and logic. This makes more sense, therefore they're going to do this thing. Not the case. Humans are emotional creatures and we make the decision with emotion and then we justify it with logic.
The subconscious is like 95% of your brain activity is subconscious. Again, it's like you're overwhelmed with information. So the subconscious brain has to decide what is relevant to me. So the rest doesn't have to affect my 5% conscious energy. So in order to get the subconscious to do anything, then it needs to have an emotional response. Because if it's unemotional, then there's nothing that's going to create action. Because people are wired for comfort, not change. So in order to move someone out of comfort, then it needs to be a hard enough emotional pull to change their state. Because if you're just spitting facts, super boring.
Like imagine scrolling your Facebook feed and then just like these facts come up about, some science. And it's like, it's so easy to just keep going. Who cares? Right? But I came across an ad yesterday and all of a sudden it says, cows kill 22 people a year. This is what we do about it. And it's a man holding a rifle to a cow and then quickly pivots to their pure leather belts. Savage, right? It clearly gets the emotions up, especially for the PETA people, right? And the vegans. And everyone else is just kind of like left in shock, right? Either way, you want to make people feel something.
So that's going to get an emotional response from almost anybody because of the shock factor. But what that's going to do is it's going to filter out the people who hate this person for killing cows. You're going to one, not buy, but two, you're probably going to leave a comment that reflects your values and signal your values in a way that helps them increase their algorithm so it reaches more views. Because if somebody's commenting on your ad, then that's just good, even if it's a bad comment, because we want reach. So more emotions are better because the right people are going to say, I want that belt because that's hilarious. And the wrong people are going to say, you're an asshole, I'm not buying from you, which are both a win for this company because they want to be prolific and they want sales, but only from the right people because those who do buy have that us versus them mentality.
It's like the brand Assholes Live Forever. Very prolific. Every product they put out, it has shock value. Everything is clearly the beliefs and values of the people that understand it. Very a degen brand, very much for people going to the bars and, getting milk poured on them. It's very much his ecosystem, but it's all based on emotion. Just like the news, they always say, if it bleeds, it leads, because that creates emotion.
So when you're selling something, then most people naturally want to get into, look at all of the stuff I have inside of this offer. So much stuff, right? So much value with all of this stuff. And then what does that stuff do? It's just facts, facts, facts. So if somebody is already emotionally bought in, then maybe these facts will help their left brain say, okay, that sounds good to me, let's go. But you need to get that right brain emotional side bought in first. So you need to lead with those emotions in order to get the brain out of comfort, out of like doom scroll mode, and actually engaged. We need to get that subconscious brain saying, hey, conscious brain, this might be relevant to you. Or it's like shocking enough that it just overrides all the subconscious. But most people try to sell with facts, and it's not going to work. It's not going to pull out a credit card.
And
Is
you're going
that
to blow
correct?
a lot of money on advertising.
So this is ultimately the six
Six.
pieces, quick math, 6 pieces of the mindset inside your customer. So if you can read their mind, then it helps you understand how to be more attractive. So you can attract the right customers, repel the outsiders who don't pass the vibe check, and then you can create a community of like-minded, similar people who are on the same mission towards the same thing, rallying together and creating that magical little ecosystem.
So by the way, you got to know your customer. And like we say, for a tribe niche, you are your customer. You had a hero journey, you figured something out. You're just providing the shortcut for your people, which means you know your customer so innately. You experience all their pain points. You know all of the emotions that they've had to face along the journey. You can easily speak to all of these things in a way that you know their values. You have an overriding sense of beliefs here, and you can just use the right things to just trigger those emotions and then just paint that promised land, the result that you have, and then just drag them towards it without burdening them.
So find that hottest result that can create the most emotions. Like, yes, I need this. Yes, I want this. Put it in front of the people who value the same things as you, because then they're like, yes, I want that for the same reasons because I value that highly. You know, like us building this tribe method, it's all about creating a freedom-based business. So we want to attract people who also value not just helping people get results, but doing it in a leveraged way so they can maintain their freedom, right? Without giving you too much stuff. We spent a lot of time on 90 Day Tribe making sure it was as short as possible. You know the old adage, like, sorry, this email is so long, I didn't have time to condense it, right? So people don't want to spend more time in order to get a result. So what is the highest emotional result you can get? What is the fastest way you can deliver it? And then who shares that value so they're naturally likely to feel a similar vibe check and want it for the same reasons? And then give them less options to buy, less stuff to confuse them, less stuff in the back end, and increase their status at the same time. And when they do hit that milestone, when they do hit that result, give them something that helps them reflect and signal that they are successful, that they have adopted that new collective identity.
And then every sense of the way, use emotions, not just on the front end, but then continually along the way, right? Once we onboard them, we want to show that manifesto. We want to get that energy going. We want to get that emotion up so that they take the next step, right? Even in all of the footer of our emails, we'll do before and afters. We'll tell a story that creates emotion, that gets them rebought in, that gives them hope on the mission that they can do it. We're continually feeding more emotion, the right emotions, you know, hope being a big one because hope creates action. And so continually getting them bought in, so that they continue doing the things they need to do to get the result.
One step at a time, because we're locking most of the content. In our 90-day tribe, most of the content is locked until they get there. So they only see one module at a time because we don't want to overwhelm them, right? So it's just, what is that one next step? What is that next result? And what do I need to know and do? So figure out that best result you can get, make it easy, condense it, highly emotional, get those results, signal those results, increase their status, and build a business that people want to buy from and belong to. Because just because you can solve a problem for someone doesn't mean they want you to solve that problem for them. It doesn't mean that that problem is the highest, best use of their time and money right now. So hit them at get the right people, the right values.
So you'll see a lot of these in the 27 Tribe Secrets. If you haven't got the book yet, it's literally a step-by-step playbook, right? These are just kind of psychological tactics that we love. We just love this stuff. But the 27 Tribe Secrets is a step-by-step. The first 11 pieces will help you get inside the brain of the buyer to attract the right people. And so that's what a lot of this is. And the book will just help you make it more sequential. So go to tribemethod.com if you don't have that yet. It's $7.95. So it makes your life easy.
So yeah, go build your tribe, because remember, it's always sunny when you're making money.
All right, we'll see you next week for another Tribe Live.
Cheers.